Joining me also now from Washington is Tom Fitton. He's the president of Judicial Watch. This is a group that makes its name working for openness in government. And Tom, your organization is very much about getting sometimes sensitive information, mostly on the domestic side, out into the public arena. What's your reaction to this Wikileaks document release?
Well, I think it's unbelievably dangerous, and it undermines the rule of law, and whoever released it really needs to be held to account and sent to jail for a long, long time, if not worse. You know, we have hundreds of requests pending with the Obama administration under the Freedom of Information Act, and we ask for national security information sometimes. They tell us no. We try to convince them otherwise to release it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We go to court to fight over issues like that. If the court agrees with us, we win. If they don't, we don't win, and the documents are withheld. But to take it upon yourself to release classified material is dangerous. It can get people killed, and it undermines our national security. So this, to me, is not about transparency. We're second to none for advocating for transparency, but it's got to be transparency under the law. And this, to me, is an attack on America, pure and simple, this massive release of information.
I think the WikiLeaks argument would be that people need to know the way their government operates, and this is a real window on that. But in your view, they shouldn't have done it.
Well, I agree. People need to know the way the government operates, and there's a way to do that, and it's to follow the law. And you don't steal documents. You don't violate the law by releasing classified information. If this holds true, if this stands, there's not much the government is able to keep secret. And as a result, we're not going to be able to do what we need to do internationally to defend American interests.
Of course, a U.S. military man has been accused of allegedly releasing this information that apparently somehow found its way into the hands of WikiLeaks. That case, of course, has not been resolved as of yet. Thanks so much, Tom Fitton.
You're welcome.
We will be back with you at the bottom of the hour, and then we're going to talk about ethics in Washington, which I know is another one of your favorite subjects. Longtime Washington stalwarts have been leading the headlines in recent days for all the wrong reasons. House members like Democrats Charlie Rangel and Maxine Waters, and even former GOP power broker Tom DeLay, all with ethics trouble, some before the Congress, and in DeLay's case, one before the courts. It's a good time to assess the ethical climate in the nation's capital. Craig Holman is government affairs lobbyist for the watchdog group Public Citizen, and Tom Fitton, who joined me at the top of the hour, is the president of Judicial Watch, which investigates public corruption. Tom Fitton, would like to start with you. Congressman Charlie Rangel, his upcoming reprimand, does the punishment fit, if you will, the offense? He says he'd like to see a censure, which is a bit less harsh treatment there in the House of Representatives.
Well, I think you have it reversed. He's up for a censure.
Oh, that's right. I do have it reversed.
You know, this is just silliness. A censure is not a serious punishment, given what he was convicted of by his colleagues in the House, which is abusing his office, not paying his taxes, and this was the head of the tax writing committee for a time who wasn't paying his taxes, and contrary to the law. And it seems a censure is essentially would bring him down to the well of the House and have Nancy Pelosi read a statement admonishing him. And that's not serious punishment. He ought to be expelled from Congress. So, you know, it's more of the same, unfortunately. It's good that he was held to public account to the extent he's been held. But the idea that censure is a serious punishment is an idea that I think only flies in Washington.
Now, for the record, even the individual who was sort of bringing the charges against him before the Ethics Committee has said he didn't think that Charlie Rangel was corrupt, but certainly that he was very sloppy in his affairs. But Craig Holman, I do want to move on to you now and talk a little bit about Tom DeLay. This is a man who was the Republican leader in the House of Representatives for so long, called the Hammer. Now he's been convicted on a variety of charges relating to the issue of campaign finance. In his case, do you think he got what he should have gotten, or was the judge or the prosecutor or anybody else in this case overstepping?
Well, it took much too long to finally come up with a decision in Tom DeLay's case. You know, all this stems back to violations that he committed back in 2006, 2005, 2004, and we didn't finally get a final decision until this year. It just went too slow. But having said that, I want to point out the reason why we did get a decision is because of the persistence of Ronnie Earl, who is the DA out in Travis County in Texas.
Retired, I think he's the retired, is he not, district attorney?
That's right, but he also hung on to the job in order to carry through with these prosecutions, and that's the only reason we finally got a case now. You know, having said that, I also want to add that Tom DeLay's corrupt activities in Congress back in 2006 is what created a whole new enforcement mechanism following his departure. We created what's called the Office of Congressional Ethics to try to help out the House Ethics Committee in dealing with these corruption cases. The Office of Congressional Ethics is a semi-independent body of outsiders that are weighing in on doing these investigations of these scandals. Traditionally, we've had just the House Ethics Committee handling this, and they are just members of Congress themselves taking a look at how they behave. They have a notorious record of not doing anything when it comes to investigations and scandals. As a matter of fact, they had only 7 cases in the decade from 1997 to 2006.
Well, let me jump in right there and ask you about this office, because there's been a lot of controversy and question as to whether House Republicans now in control might actually get rid of this new office, because they say it's duplicative and it's not very productive. Democrats don't like it. Republicans don't like it. Should this new office be done away with?
That is my biggest fear, that come January 5th, when John Boehner takes over as Speaker of the House, that he is going to eliminate the Office of Congressional Ethics.
Now, Tom Fitton, jump in here, too. Let you weigh in on this.
I don't think it should be eliminated. I think it should be strengthened. And I think Democrats and Republicans, both leaders of both parties, don't like any independent ethics investigations going on in the House. This process is still weak, in my view. Rangel and Maxine Waters are just two of, I think, dozens of congressmen who ought to be under strict scrutiny through the ethics process. And I think Tom DeLay's conviction is going to make it tougher for the Republicans to go back and tear down this office and weaken ethics enforcement at least on the House side.
Maxine Waters, of course, another issue we didn't quite get to. That's the congresswoman from California who has her own ethics trial coming up at some point in the future. We thought it was going to begin just this coming week, but we don't know exactly when that's going to get started. So I want to thank you both, Craig Holman, Tom Fitton, for coming in on Sunday and talking to us.
Pleasure being here.